welcome to the Property Wealth Podcast. We're so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us.
So, have you ever thought about how you could manage your rental properties from anywhere in the world?
Absolutely. I mean, with the right tools and strategies, you can really be a remote landlord, even if you're miles away from your properties.
Right. It's like the world is your oyster when it comes to real estate investing.
Exactly. And today, we're going to dive into some practical tips on how to make that remote landlording work for you.
We'll touch on everything from effective communication with tenants to using technology to streamline property management.
Plus, we'll explore how to build a reliable team to support you, no matter where you are.
And, we'll also share some personal stories and lessons learned along the way, which I think will really resonate with our listeners.
For sure. It's all about making informed decisions and feeling confident in your investments, even from afar.
So let's get into it. Mike, what's the first thing someone should consider if they want to manage their properties remotely?
Sarah, when we talk about remote landlording, it really resonates with so many people over 40 today, especially when you consider the shifting economic landscape.
Absolutely, Mike. We're seeing inflation rise, right? That's a huge concern for folks who are nearing retirement or already there.
Exactly. And real estate has historically been a strong hedge against inflation. You buy a property, and ideally, it appreciates over time while your rental income can also increase. This helps keep pace with rising costs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is to think about their retirement timelines. For someone in their 40s or 50s, they're often looking at a 10 to 20-year horizon for retirement. Remote landlording can really help create a more flexible income stream.
Right, and that flexibility is key. Imagine you're in your 50s, and you want to travel more or spend time with family. Being able to manage your properties from anywhere means you're not tied down. You can still enjoy life while your investments work for you.
That's a great point. I've heard stories from investors who started out managing their properties themselves, but then realized they could hire a property management company. One investor I spoke to, let's call him Tom, he was really stressed out managing properties locally. Once he switched to remote landlording, he felt so much relief.
Exactly, and Tom's story is common. He found that with the right systems in place, like using property management software and virtual tours, he could oversee his investments without being physically present.
And I think that gives people a sense of security, doesn't it? Knowing their investments are being taken care of, even if they're living life or pursuing other interests.
Definitely. It's that emotional side of financial security we often overlook. People want to feel safe about their financial future, especially as they think about wealth transfer to their families.
Right, and having a reliable income stream can make a big difference when it comes to leaving a legacy. It's not just about building wealth for yourself, but also thinking about your children or grandchildren.
Exactly. By investing in real estate, you're not just creating a nest egg for retirement, you're also establishing a foundation for future generations. That's something that resonates deeply with many of our listeners.
And when you think about current economic trends, the job market is changing too. More people are working remotely now, which means they can live anywhere. It opens up opportunities in different markets that may have a lower cost of living or higher rental demand.
Yes, and that's where remote landlording really shines. You can invest in a market that's thriving even if it's miles away from where you live. For instance, a listener I know, let's call her Lisa, she invested in a growing market in another state without ever stepping foot there.
That's inspiring. How did she manage it?
Well, she utilized online platforms for everything, from finding tenants to managing maintenance requests. She even used local real estate agents to help her find good properties that fit her investment strategy.
Smart move. It's all about leveraging technology, isn't it?
Exactly. You can automate a lot of the processes that used to require your physical presence. But more than that, it gives you peace of mind knowing that your investment is being handled professionally.
And I think that's really crucial. The emotional aspects of financial security can't be underestimated. When you're in your 40s or 50s, you start thinking about what's next, and having those investments in place can alleviate a lot of anxiety.
Right, and especially when you consider the unpredictability of the market today. Having a diversified portfolio that includes real estate can help you weather those economic storms.
That's true. And with the way the job market is fluctuating, having passive income streams from rental properties can make a significant difference. It can help cushion against job loss or unexpected expenses.
Absolutely. Plus, the rental market can be quite resilient. Even during downturns, people need places to live. If you have a well-located property, demand can still be there.
And that brings us back to the idea of long-term wealth. It's about building something that lasts. Real estate isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a strategy for sustainable growth over time.
Very true. And if you can manage your properties remotely, you can adapt to whatever life throws at you, whether it's a career change, health issues, or just wanting to enjoy life more.
So it sounds like a great way to not only build wealth, but also to gain that flexibility and peace of mind.
Exactly, and that's so important, especially as we move towards retirement. It's all about creating a lifestyle that you want, not one that's dictated by your investments.
I love this. And I think it's a perfect segue into discussing some core strategies for remote landlording.
You know, Sarah, when it comes to remote landlording, there are some core strategies that can really make a difference. I mean, understanding a few rules of thumb can help simplify your decision-making process.
Absolutely, Mike. So what's a good starting point for someone just diving into this?
Well, let's start with the 1% rule. It's a classic. The idea is that your monthly rent should ideally be about 1% of the purchase price of the property. So if you buy a property for, let's say, $200,000, you should aim to rent it for around $2,000 a month.
That's pretty straightforward. But what if the market doesn't support that rental amount?
Good question. In that case, you might want to look at the local market trends. Sometimes, you might need to adjust your expectations or even consider different property types that might yield better returns.
Right, and this leads us to the 50% rule, doesn't it?
Exactly. The 50% rule is a handy way to estimate your operating expenses. So if you're looking at that same $200,000 property, generating $2,000 a month in rent, you can expect that about half of that, around $1,000, will go towards expenses, things like property management, maintenance, taxes, and insurance.
That's great to keep in mind. So if your revenue minus expenses leaves you with a good cash flow, then you're likely on the right track, right?
Yes. And to really evaluate a deal, you can use a checklist. Start with the property's location, condition, potential for appreciation, and cash flow projections.
And how do you assess cash flow?
Look at your income minus your expenses. If you're making a profit, that's a good sign. And keep in mind to factor in vacancy rates. A common rule of thumb is to budget for about 5 to 10% of your rental income to account for vacancies.
That's smart. Speaking of income, what about financing options? I know some people get a bit overwhelmed by that.
It can be a bit daunting at first, but there are several routes you can take. Traditional mortgages, for instance, are a common choice. Then there are portfolio loans, which can be beneficial if you're looking to acquire multiple properties.
And what about using cash?
Cash purchases can give you a competitive edge, especially in a tight market. You can often negotiate better terms because sellers prefer the certainty that comes with cash offers. But not everyone has that option, right?
Exactly. So if someone is relying on financing, how do they ensure they're not over-leveraging?
A good rule of thumb is to keep your debt-to-income ratio below 36%. This means that no more than 36% of your gross monthly income should go towards debt payments, including your mortgage.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about property types. Are there certain types that are better suited for remote management?
Great point. Single-family homes are often easier to manage remotely because they tend to attract long-term tenants. But multifamily properties can generate more cash flow, even if they require a bit more oversight.
Right, and then there are also short-term rentals, which have become so popular lately.
Yeah, short-term rentals can be lucrative, but they come with their own set of challenges, like higher turnover rates and more intensive management. If you're managing remotely, think about whether you have the right systems in place to handle that.
Speaking of systems, what tech tools do you recommend for someone managing remotely?
There are several great property management software options out there, like Appfolio or Buildium. They can help you with everything from tracking rent payments to handling maintenance requests. And don't forget about good communication tools.
Like what?
Well, using apps like Slack or even WhatsApp can keep you in touch with your tenants. Plus, it creates an easy way for them to reach out if there's an issue.
That's super helpful. Now, when it comes to evaluating properties from a distance, what's a key step you always recommend?
Definitely do your due diligence. Use online resources to research neighborhoods. Check out crime rates, schools, and amenities. Websites like Zillow or Redfin can provide valuable insights.
And virtual tours have become a game changer, right?
For sure, a lot of real estate agents now offer virtual tours. They can give you a feel for the property without you having to be there. Just make sure to ask for a live walkthrough if you're seriously considering a property.
That's a solid approach. Now, before we wrap up this section, are there any common pitfalls to watch out for when it comes to remote landlording?
Absolutely, and that's something we should dive into next. It's really important to be aware of a few traps that can catch you off guard.
Sounds like a plan. Let's unpack those pitfalls.
You know, Sarah, one of the biggest pitfalls I see with remote landlording is over-leveraging.
Oh, definitely. A lot of investors get caught up in the excitement of buying properties, right? They think, I can handle this, and then they stretch themselves too thin.
Exactly. I had a client a while back who bought 2 properties in quick succession without really evaluating their cash flow. They were so focused on getting the deals done that they ignored the fact that their monthly expenses were creeping up.
What happened next?
Well, they ended up in a tough spot when one of the properties had unexpected repairs. They didn't have enough cash reserves to cover it, so they had to take on a high-interest loan just to stay afloat, which of course made their situation worse.
That's a harsh lesson. So how can someone avoid that trap?
The key is to really analyze your cash flow before you make any purchases. Make sure you have enough reserves for repairs and unexpected expenses. You know, it's like that old saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Right, and speaking of unexpected expenses, what about bad tenants? That's a common issue too, isn't it?
Absolutely. I had another client who was so eager to fill their rental that they didn't properly vet their tenants. They skipped the background checks because they were worried about losing a month's rent.
Oh no, that's risky.
Yeah, and it backfired. The tenants ended up damaging the property and stopped paying rent after just a couple of months. It took them nearly 6 months to evict them, and by that time, the client had lost a significant amount of money.
That's heartbreaking. So how can investors spot red flags when screening tenants?
Well, first off, always run background and credit checks. Look for things like a history of evictions or consistent late payments. And, trust your gut. If someone seems too eager or gives vague answers during the interview, that's a red flag.
Such good advice. And I imagine ignoring cash flow can lead to some major headaches too, right?
Oh, for sure. I once worked with someone who bought a property in a neighborhood they thought would appreciate quickly. They were banking on that appreciation to cover their monthly cash flow. But instead, the market stagnated, and they ended up with a property that was costing them money every month.
So they were relying on the market to save them, rather than focusing on what they could control?
Exactly. It's important to remember that cash flow is king. Even if the market isn't moving as quickly as you hoped, if your property is generating consistent income, you're much better off.
And what about timing the market? That can be a slippery slope too.
Definitely. I've seen investors wait for the perfect moment to buy, thinking they'll get a better deal. One guy, the first no, kept waiting for prices to drop. But instead, they just kept rising. He ended up paying way more than he would have if he just bought in when he initially planned.
That's frustrating. So what's the takeaway here?
The takeaway is that you need to have a long-term perspective. Don't try to time the market. Instead, focus on finding solid properties that fit your investment strategy and can provide reliable cash flow.
That makes perfect sense. And what about hidden costs?
Hidden costs can really sneak up on you. I had a client who bought a property expecting it to be low maintenance. They didn't factor in property management fees, maintenance costs, or even things like insurance and property taxes.
Wow, those can add up quickly.
Exactly. When they added everything together, they realized they were barely breaking even. It's crucial to do a full financial analysis before purchasing.
So it's really about doing your homework, right?
Yes. Always account for all potential expenses and keep a buffer for unexpected costs. It's better to be pleasantly surprised than to be caught off guard.
Such valuable insights, Mike. So if someone finds themselves in one of these situations, what's the best way to recover or avoid these pitfalls in the future?
The first step is to assess the situation honestly. Don't ignore the problems. Face them head on. Evaluate your cash flow. Tighten up your tenant screening process. And prioritize maintaining a healthy reserve fund.
And maybe even look into finding a mentor or a professional advisor, right?
Absolutely. Having someone with experience can help you navigate tricky situations and avoid common mistakes.
And it's never too late to adjust your strategy, right?
Exactly. You can always pivot and make changes. Real estate investing is a long game, and learning from mistakes is part of the journey.
Well said, Mike. I think our listeners will find this information really helpful as they navigate their own real estate journeys.
I hope so. Just remember, stay informed, be proactive, and keep building that wealth.
Great advice. Now let's transition to what our listeners can do next.
All right, so let's dive into some actionable steps that you can start taking right now to really get a handle on remote landlording.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about making it practical, right? So what's the first thing folks can do?
Well, I'd say start by getting familiar with some essential apps. For instance, Zillow is fantastic for researching properties and understanding the market in different areas. You can check out pricing trends and get a feel for what's out there.
Totally. And it's super user-friendly too. What about tools for analyzing potential deals?
Ah, good point. The BiggerPockets calculator is a gem. It helps you run the numbers on a property, analyzing cash flow, ROI, and all that good stuff. It's a great way to ensure you're not just going in blind.
That's so important. You really want to feel confident in your numbers, especially when you're not physically there.
Exactly. And then there's DealCheck. It's similar, but offers a bit more in terms of visualizing your potential investment. You can analyze properties side by side, which is helpful if you're considering multiple options.
Nice. And what about rent analysis?
Rentometer is a great tool for that. You can compare your property's rental price to others in the area. It helps you set competitive rent prices, which is crucial when managing remotely.
Right? You don't want to overprice or underprice. And what about local resources?
Accessing your local MLS can be a game changer. It gives you up-to-date listings and market data. If you can find a reliable local agent who understands remote landlording, that's a huge bonus.
Yeah, having someone on the ground can really help. Now, if someone's just starting out, what habits should they focus on?
I'd recommend setting a goal to analyze one deal per week. It doesn't have to be a huge investment. Just practice looking at different properties and running the numbers.
That's a manageable goal. It keeps you in the game without feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. And joining a local real estate meetup can also be beneficial. You'll connect with other investors, share experiences, and learn from each other.
Networking is so key. And you can often find meetups online too, which is perfect if you're managing from afar.
Right, and don't forget about the power of books and podcasts. There are so many great resources out there. The book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner is one I often recommend. It covers a lot of ground.
That's a solid choice. There's also the BiggerPockets podcast for more real-life stories and insights from seasoned investors. It's super motivating.
Absolutely. And you might find that just listening to those types of resources sparks new ideas or gives you the confidence to take that next step.
For sure. And speaking of steps, what about setting up your management systems?
That's a big one. Consider using a property management software like AppFolio or Tenant Cloud. They help streamline communication with tenants, rent collection, and maintenance requests.
Oh, that sounds like a lifesaver. It can really help keep everything organized, especially when you're managing from a distance.
Definitely. And starting small is key. You don't have to have everything figured out right away. Just take one step at a time.
Right. So even if it's just downloading an app or reading a chapter of a book this week, it all adds up.
Exactly. And remember, you're building a skill set here. Each step you take is a step toward becoming a more confident investor.
I love that perspective. It's all about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And as you continue to learn and grow, you'll find that managing remotely can actually open up a lot of opportunities you might not have considered before.
So true. It's like expanding your horizons without being tied down to one location.
And that flexibility can lead to more diverse investments, which can be really exciting.
Oh, absolutely. So with all these tools and tips, listeners are really set to take action.
Yes, and remember, it's all about starting where you are. Just take that first step and build from there.
With these tools in your pocket, you're ready to move forward. Let's recap what we've covered today.
So as we wrap up, I think it's important to highlight a few key takeaways from our discussion on remote landlording.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest points was the importance of building a strong team, right? Having reliable property managers and contractors who you trust makes all the difference.
Exactly, and don't forget about leveraging technology. Tools like property management apps and online communication platforms can really help you stay connected, no matter where you are.
Right, and we also touched on the importance of having clear systems in place. Whether it's for tenant screening or maintenance requests, having a structured approach can save you a lot of headaches.
And, of course, we talked about the financial aspects, like understanding your cash flow and keeping track of your expenses. It's vital for making informed decisions, especially when you're managing properties remotely.
Yeah, all these points really emphasize that with the right strategies, investing in real estate can be done from anywhere. It's all about setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely. And remember, building wealth through real estate isn't just a dream. It's very achievable, especially if you're willing to learn and adapt.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and let us know your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have in the comments.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone over 40 who's thinking about investing in property. It might just inspire them to take that first step.
Next time, we'll dive into a really exciting topic: international investing, pros and cons. We'll explore what you need to know if you're considering investing beyond your local market.
Yeah, it'll be a great discussion, so don't miss it.
Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you're feeling inspired to take action on your real estate journey.
Until next time, take care and happy investing.